Hello, this is Greg Allison, Green Greg's, coming to you with the 5 biggest risks for the rest of 2020. What can we expect the rest of this year? Wow, this year has already been a roller coaster. I mean, I did a video early in the year, just right at the, last year or beginning of this year about what to expect with the 2020s. Holy smoke, it has been coming fast and furious, as you well know. So I wouldn't expect a whole lot of relief the rest of this year. So what could come at us? What could we really face? There's a lot of tension in this world. A lot of things are breaking and shaking. So let's have a review of what we can see this year. So what we're going to talk about in this video is 5 areas. And one of them is, of course, global war, something I've talked about a lot. It has a lot of dimensions to that topic. And we're going to talk about civil war. We're going to talk about economic crash. We're going to talk about food crises. And we're going to talk about natural catastrophes. Now, in all truth, these get intertwined. Sometimes the spaghetti overlaps. One causes another, cascading events. And many of these things may be in the process of occurring already. So we're about to get into it. Before we do, I want to say I cover a lot of things on this channel. The proposition of this channel is to help you survive, thrive, and stay out of the hive. And this is part of my eyes wide open and head on a swivel series of newscasts that I bring to you, podcasts, whatever you want to call it. So it's to help you understand what you need to prepare for so that you can indeed thrive, survive, and stay out of the hive. And thrive is part of it. But we hope to thrive and survive, thrive, and stay out of the hive. All 3. And I'll talk more about the hive in other videos. So please subscribe to my channel. Bang the update notification bell and click all if you want to see more of my videos. I cover a wide range of topics. Things like this, what's going on in the world, how to grow your own food, which is going to be vital, how to eat from the wilds, wild foraging, wild medicines, how to grow worms, how to garden, so much. Anyway, and in that light, with everything coming at us, my friends, if you're not prepared, if you're not already getting yourself ready, then you need to run. You should have been doing this years ago. So I'm going to show you something real fast to help you. Hang on a minute. So, indeed, look at these catastrophe pictures here. Just so happens, I'll go through this real quickly. We do have specials to support my channel. You can click, it's listed in my videos. My Patriot Supply, you can get to it through prepwithgreg.com. Go to prepwithgreg.com to get the specials. You don't get those by going straight to the website. So with prepwithgreg.com, you have specials for discount on a 1-week emergency food supply, but holy smoke, you get the 4-week emergency food supply, but you get $100 off. $100 off of this deal. That is an excellent deal. And holy smoke, look at what you get. You get some fine food, some excellent food. Get it cheap. And look at what all you can get in here. I mean, it's a wide variety of breakfast, lunch, and dinner food, tasty food, desserts, drinks. It's, you can avoid the empty shelves with all these things I'm going to be talking about, the risk in front of us. So do it now. Go and check it out. And also, you can get your other prepping supplies here. Once you go to this page, just click on My Patriot Supply. Takes you to all kind of things for prepping. All kind of prepping supplies here, and other you can get a year's worth of food at a time. Well, I'd buy it, I'd buy the 1 month supplies, 12 of them, save you a lot of money. Water filtration, you can find it all here. Everything you need for prepping supplies, well, almost everything. Certainly, a lot of stuff you need can be found here. So let's talk about war. As you can see, there's a whole lot of articles out here talking about Cold War, that we've already in a Cold War with China and the United States. So global war, what can happen? As we know, there's a lot of tension between China and nations around it. China and India. And there's tensions between nations that don't pertain to China. There's a lot of tensions between Israel and Iran, between the United States and Iran, between China and India. Oh, that's part of the China thing, right? And India and Pakistan. Now, even though India and Pakistan would not represent a global war, a conflict between them can easily lead to a global nuclear winter. And that's a likely conflict just because they're side by side and there's almost no warning time to interpret what might be a launch or an accidental launch or some other mistake made. You know, the United States and Russia had several mistakes, but we had time to figure out if things were really coming over the poles at us or not. We had the time. That luxury of time prevented a full-scale apocalypse many times. So that said, there may not be that luxury between India and Pakistan. Also, would a conflict there draw in others? Good question. I've just done a video about Taiwan and China. Will that come to blows? I don't know. Yeah, that's not correct. It ain't grammar, but it does rhyme. So if you know me, you know I have a penchant for poetry. So all that said, look, you know, okay, so I'll laugh a little bit. You know, you have to laugh in the face of adversity. The most important thing in adversity is keep your spirits up. Don't let it take you away. Stay centered. We'll talk more about that in the future. So global war is something that's a big prospect. Let me give a big disclaimer. All over the world, in all of these countries, there are good people. There are people with good hearts, smart people, people that are treasures. There's grandmas, grandpas, family members, aunts, uncles, children, little babies. One of the most precious things, I believe the most precious thing in the universe is a little baby. I don't care where that baby's from. Babies are precious anywhere in the world. And they're always at risk by all this nonsense of conflicts and consternations. So I hope we can find a way to get above and beyond that. But the fact of the matter is, it's part of the world that we live in today. So I'm not advocating that by any stretch. I'm just telling you where the risks are so you can get ready and get prepared yourself. They're there, they're real. And these risks include, if we're in a major conflict, if any major conflict occurs, such as if Taiwan falls under invasion from China, it might be that China would decide to EMP the United States to get us out of the equation. Right. Maybe a long shot. I'm not saying it would happen. But then again, we, as you can see from this article here and from the Diplomat, we're already in a lot of consternation with China. And we could easily get into ourselves with all that's going on in the South China Sea and elsewhere. There is, you know, it may be that it's not intentional. It might be a misinterpretation by one side or the other that leads to a cascade of events that could go full scale. There's always a risk when forces engage with each other. So the risk of a global conflict may be greater than we would like to consider. The consequences would be graver than we'd ever want to ponder, but they're there. And that's why I mention these things. So, you know, we live in a multiplayer world today. At one time, it's just the United States and Russia. So, you know, in terms of that we worried about during most of the Cold War, in terms of starting a major conflict. So there were just two big players. So there were two camps that would make these decisions. And after the Cuban Missile Crisis, there was a hotline between them to avert such an event. Well, now there are many players in the world, many, many players. It's a multipolar thing. So the dynamic is far less stable than it was at that point in time. So you might have thought about the Cuban Missile Crisis, and there's many other crises where we came near to conflict, including the launch of a scientific Black Brant sounding rocket from Norway to do some high atmospheric tests that was misinterpreted by Yeltsin and his generals as being a ballistic missile launch from a submarine from the Barents Sea to EMP them with a missile launch following it from our side. We almost went to war because there was a lack of communications within the Soviet Union. They had broken down. More than that later, go see my interview with Dr. Peter Benson. I knew some of the guys that were involved in that rocket launch, the Black Brant rocket. Some of my friends from NASA Wallops had experiments on it. They were there when that went on. Little did they know that their little scientific experiments almost brought the end of the world. Armageddon. Yes, we're talking about a potential Armageddon, and it could happen. That's the worst thing that could come upon us. And, you know, grid down. Grid down factors in many of these scenarios, so of global war. And that may be how the attack would manifest itself. That would be the first part of it in any event. And I've also done videos with China attacking the United States. All that said, there's a lot of room that you have access. But again, it is the prospect of an EMP that concerns me the most. because I think that is the most likely attack, or at least initial attack. There may be invasions following up, or they may just let us take care of ourselves, thinking we'll all die with plans for a subsequent invasion down the road. How they would aspire to manage our nuclear power plants that would be cooking off. Hey, that's a whole nother question. And I don't have the answer for that. And hopefully that would discourage any of them from wanting to do that. Although I don't think we should maintain those spent fuel rod poles as a discouragement. We need to get that stuff taken care of, because if we don't get taken out by war and EMP, the sun can do that job for us. I'll get to that when we get back to natural disasters. So we're all aware that we've had some recent discomfort in the United States. And this kind of discomfort's been going on around the world. There are tensions in this country. These tensions have definitely flared over. And these are some of the peaceful protests that are happening across the country, right? So I'm told. Go figure and make of it what you will. But the fact of the matter is, the ugliest thing we could do, let's hope this does not boil over into a full-blown civil war, because a civil war is the ugliest thing we could imagine. America's first civil war, and let's hope it stays the first and only, was the deadliest single war Americans ever fought in. When Americans fight Americans, it's not pretty, not at all. And civil wars are specifically ugly. Now, back in that war, it was really a war between regions, a war between states, and that's what we used to call it. And still a lot of people here in my neck of the woods still call it the war between the states, because there were separate states, and some had succeeded, namely the region I live in, and the war was laid out that way. A civil war is a war between communities, and that war had some aspects of this too. War between family members, brothers, neighbors. You know, there was some of that back then too, but it was still more a war between regions. A war that's broke out across the country along other lines, ideological, racial, whatever you want to divide it, would be extremely ugly. And it's really uncalled for. There's no reason that we can't find some means to make peace, at least I hope. Although there are people that have committed transgressions that should be held accountable and should be tried for all the transgressions they've done over the years. So more on that maybe sometime later. But primarily the difference at this time around, and really the true difference between the left and the right, is it may look somewhat statewide, but it is primarily urban versus primarily rural areas in the country. Predominantly urban versus predominantly rural, or at least urban and rural in mindset. A lot of these rural places have pretty high populations, and a lot of these other places are have the sections too. So, but that is the typical division, because people that are primarily urban tend to be people that are more dependent on services that you would find in a big city and urban setting, whereas people that are primarily urban, predominantly rural, tend to be more independent, more rugged, individualistic. And it's two very radically different mindsets. And the politics of the day have divided that and driven those divisions deep. So much so that if you're in one set or the other, and the way the social algorithms work, you only see information that reinforces what you already think. I've talked about worldviews in the past. I can talk about them again in the future, but everybody's got their own worldview. And you tend to take in information according to such a way that's going to reinforce what you already believe. That's the prejudices that we have. And so that just amps your worldview more. Well, social media and the algorithms it has to send people things that they want to see actually amplifies that. It makes the divisions grow deeper. So it's not helping us in that regard. It's making it worse. And some people are playing into this. The biggest thing that we've got to worry about is what's coming upon us. About 100 days from now, we have elections. Less than 100 days in this country, we have elections. And the tensions are ratcheting up. What happens just before the elections? Well, there'll be October surprises coming from either or both sides of the party. Well, there can be September surprises, August surprises. I mean, the heat is already on. You can expect it to escalate up to the election. And what happens after the election? If it's close, if it's anywhere a close election, no matter who wins, the others, well, I'm not saying it doesn't matter who wins, but what my point is, whoever wins, the other side is not going to accept it. Vehemently so, not going to accept it. So how do we keep this country stitched together? How can we operate together? Are we a house divided? Can we stand as a house divided? Lincoln said no. So we've got challenges. We got societal challenges. We have governmental challenges. We'll have challenges of every type you can imagine. It will not be pretty at all. But just to kind of here's an article from Spectator USA. Said top Democrats contemplate civil war if Biden loses. Now you may laugh at this, but guess who's running the simulation exercises for blue states that secede from the Union if Trump wins? None other than John Podesta. Yeah, John Podesta. John Podesta, some of you may be aware, ran the food chain reaction game simulation that was funded by George Soros just a few years ago, which they predicted a major collapse in the food chain in the year 2020. One of the reasons they were predicting this, one of the causal factors was some kind of a bug going around, if you know what I mean. Interesting. No kidding. That occurred, and John Podesta ran that simulation. Now, for those of you who don't know John Podesta, he was the chief of staff for President Clinton, and he was also the campaign manager for Hillary Clinton, and he's known for being involved in something called Spirit. Yeah, cooking. So, strange stuff that, to me, I find that sickening. But that's not the topic of this video. But that said, you know, if you go back and look at some of the consternation that's been going around, some of the protests, the riots, what I've got to tell you is that this tends to be centered in cities that tend to be blue, where they can get away from taking things from me and you. In the more rural areas, what's happened, like in Idaho, it's been pretty well covered on YouTube. They sent buses of people into Idaho. They sent buses. Who's they? They paid for the buses. Well, it just so happens that all the locals showed up in front of all the stores and shops, and the buses just kept going. And that's not the only place this happened. And I've got a relative talking about a rural county near here where the same thing happened. And she says that they showed up in the buses there, and the locals, good old boys in their overalls, showed up. But she also said that the sheriff showed up and black preachers showed up, and the black preachers and the sheriffs prayed together. These outsiders, they looked at that, they turned around and left. I guess it's obvious they weren't going to purchase a lot of sympathy there from either side. They both, I think, pretty much got along with each other. At least that's the rumor. You know, some people argue with that. Some people say it's not possible. Bunk. Bunk. Big bunk. You know, we can definitely get along. I know that. I have a mixed family. So, in any event. So, when you think about these things, how far they can go with it is in question. And also, you look what's going on in Portland. The left is fighting amongst themselves hard. And consider, really, we still have a silent majority in this country. So how far can these protests really run? Outside of, you know, people burning down their own areas, basically. I don't think we can get that far. I know a lot of people, and some people that were scared that it would be just everywhere. I don't see that happening. Because just a lot of people won't stand for it. They won't permit it. It will stop if they push too far. But let's hope it doesn't. So what happens after election? Are they going to throw a fit? What happens if the left coast leaves? Do we just say goodbye? Don't let the door hit you in the rear end on the way out? Some of us are tempted to say that. And I have a friend that says, oh, gee, can't we burn Sacramento and LA and blah, blah, blah? Oh, by the way, he lives in California. But he was born in Alabama. He spent most of his life living in California. Some of my listeners may know what I'm talking about. I think he says that in jest. So don't take this serious. That is not advice. No, no, no. I stand against warfare. You know, but I do stand for defending yourselves, defending your homes, defending your country. And if we're attacked, we definitely defend our country. And we need a defense for that. It's a shame, though, that we're in a world where we require armies to defend ourselves from each other. But that shame has been instigated upon us by the governments, the systems that play us in this world. Maybe one day we can find a way to tamp all that down and put the people in charge again. That's my big hope. All right, so civil war is a massive issue. It can happen. It can boil over. It could happen pre-election, during the election to prevent votes from taking place, or post-election. You know, we don't know. But what we do know is that the things that's already happened, the riots, the burning, they have added to an already fragile economy from a certain bug going around and shutdowns. So it's already done damage. It's already hurt us. So that's just something to think about. And speaking of that, the next segue that I'm going into is economic collapse. That's the third item. So we call global war, civil war. Now we're going to talk economic collapse. You know, because of a certain bug going around, our economy has been smashing into the ground. Essentially, our gross domestic product decreased 33% last quarter. Gross national product. That's the basis from which taxation occurs. Taxation is forced. Now you notice we have relieved a lot of people making a lot of payments, and we have put out a lot more money in stimulus and unemployment, and stimulus to the corporate structure, stimulus to people, all kind of money. The Fed has been printing money about crazy, but the tax base has been shrinking like crazy. So the outlays are getting bigger, and the tax base is getting smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. So we're getting very top heavy. Will this whole thing just topple over? What's it take? When is this whole structure just going to topple over? How long can you keep that going? Well, the fact of the matter is that, you know, in Germany and a lot of smaller countries, when they started printing lots of money, what happened? When they started printing lots of money, they had runaway inflation. Remember the Weimar Republic in Germany after World War I? That's what happens when you get too top heavy, you know, or other factors that cause inflation. You print too much money, and we're doing that now. In our nation, just look at this. I killed the screen scare. This is where we're at. If your base and your outlay are the same, you're in good shape. If your base is bigger than your outlay, you're in great shape. But we've been doing this for decades. Our economic base has been decreasing. Our outlay's been going higher and higher. We've been borrowing money to make up the difference, but now we're just printing money like crazy and borrowing. At some point, that gets unstable. You can't support that forever. A lot of people don't understand it. They think the government is just an infinite source of money and can just fund anything and everything without consequence. Well, we're already seeing consequences. That may be part of what's driving coin shortages, money shortages. It's part of what's causing prices to go up already, because you got more dollars chasing fewer goods. That equals inflation. But also, people without money not able to buy things like normal causes depression. So our economy is stuck right now between countervailing depressionary and inflationary forces. Which one will win out in the end? Or will they both occur in some new form of twisted stagflation like we saw back in the Jimmy Carter era? You know, remember that, stagflation? Well, we may be into that again. So that is something to really worry about, stagflation. But there's other economic risks today because of the floods in China and other places. Our industrial supply chain lines have been shattered and broken in a lot of ways. Even the trade wars do add some to that. But our factories require parts and pieces to run, not just what they put out. You got to have the bearings to run the assembly lines and everything. There's so many pieces and parts in this whole thing, it gets crazy. So you can't expect that we can continue to run our economy when we're just missing pieces and parts because of shutdown of factories due to the bug going around, or due to the floods or other natural catastrophes in the world. Just thinking about how it all adds up. I mean, right now our unemployment, the official unemployment, is 14.7%. That's the number of people that are actively looking for jobs in the system that are still drawing unemployment. That's how that's counted. If you're looking for a job that you're not drawing unemployment, you went beyond it, that don't count. If you're, if you've been out of work for a long time or hunting a job, that don't count. They don't count you as unemployed. If you just don't have a job, they don't count you as unemployed. It's people, so that number is not what it used to mean. We're probably closer to the depressionary numbers on that than you might imagine. What happens when people suddenly can't pay their mortgages? Oh, by the way, the mortgages, you might have heard Trump and his, he did a executive orders to forestall evictions. There's a lot of other state laws and other things are out there to try to forestall evictions. And so that's helping with that, but we're just kicking the can down the road. At some point, that's going to come to end. Either we got to bring the jobs back, or things are going to happen. You got to know too that there are property owners, the renters. They're losing their money. They're going bankrupt. The people aren't paying rent. They're not. You can't evict them, but these guys are losing their shirts. So there's no such thing as a free lunch. Somewhere, sometime, somehow, somebody's got to pay for it. Who's paying? How are they paying? What happens? Our economy is at real risk. So that's something to think about. There are moratoriums, on mortgages and things like that being foreclosed in places like New York. So there's a lot of states are playing into this. There's a lot of state laws working in this. But the key thing and I meant to get into this, but I kind of skipped. The key difference between the United States and the Weimar Republic is that we have the world's reserve currency. What that means is so many dollars in force out there in the world, because the whole world is trading in dollars, that what we've been printing in the past few years hasn't greatly affected us into the Weimar Republic standpoint. But my friends, we're being challenged as a world reserve currency. Our currency is getting suspect to many people that are involved in it. And China and Russia have been trying to upset the apple cart for us being the world reserve currency for years. So we're giving them ammo, and quite frankly, the dollar is at severe risk now. And that's where we could go into a Weimar Republic inflation or some other things. So the economic pressures on this country are stupendous. Are we at the breaking point? Have we passed the breaking point? There are those out there who say we already are beyond the point of no return, that we're heading for an economic crisis beyond belief. They say that what's coming at us is going to be nothing short of nuts. That there's no way that we can even forestall it now. That too many chains have been broken, the supply chain's broken, that things are too upside down, and there's no way out. In fact, they were saying this stuff before the bug came around, that we were already way over. Our house of cards was too high. This is some of the pressures in the world today. It's like, in China, it's a flood. Check this out. This is the Taiwan News, excuse me. If you notice, I've had a liking to this paper of late. I do like international papers and news sources. So what you can see in here is between that picture and this picture, there's a lot of brown in the middle here amongst the green. That means there's a lot of these streets are probably flooded. So yeah, that's what that tells you, stuff like that. I don't want to spend too long on any one page here. I'm not reporting directly on that page, and I didn't mean to unshare. Let's go back. So one downside of the tool I'm using here is it's got a pop-up control panel that lays right over those tabs. So yeah. So let's get into the food supply. We're going into item 4. That's on the show with all this flooding. These are fields in China that are flooded. I've been talking about food supply on my channel for some time. Just did a video on that. This is what we're looking at. We're looking at massive loss of food supply. Look at China. Not just what's flooded out in the fields. The Yangtze River Valley. It's great. Why do we care about China? Because they're buying food from the rest of the world. They're driving up food prices because they're trying to make up for their own shortages. So they're buying the food supplies from other nations, including the United States. Maybe principally the United States, Argentina, all the food producers. China is buying robustly from right now because they're in a pickle. The Yangtze River Valley produces 40% of all the food produced in China, and it's having severe flooding problems. Also coming in China is a swarm of locusts threatening their food supply. And you may see early season frost in China like we've had the past couple of years. That may shorten the growing season and reduce the food from the north side. We got flooding on the south and eastern side of China. There may now be early frost in the northern part. Coming in from the west, they got the locusts. So China is, oh, on top of all that, the grain elevators, they only allow you to take a picture, because what people were taking pictures of before said walk in a grain elevator and pick up corn, what some people call maize. I mean, the large nuggets, the hard stuff, and just take it with a hand, it turns to dust. The stuff is rotten, it's molded. Maybe the humidity's been too high and they couldn't control it. Well, in what cases, but they're finding that a lot of the grain elevators. So it's not just the food they're growing, but a lot of the food that's stored is lost. Think about Beirut. Beirut had their huge grain elevator destroyed in a major explosion, and their port along with it, by which they can get more food supplies. But Greg, the United States has saved the world, right? Yeah, maybe. But guess what just happened? We just had this Derecho, or whatever you call it, that hit Iowa, Illinois. It started in Nebraska, went through Iowa. Iowa is the top corn producer in the United States. And according to the governor, they've lost about 10 million acres of corn. Iowa Governor Kim Reynolds said that they estimate 10 million acres have been damaged. 10 million. Now they produced 31 million, so roughly a third of the corn in our nation's top corn producing state has been damaged. And I got friends in Illinois. They're telling me they've had damage there too. This also indicates it. So this started in Nebraska and ran through Iowa into Illinois. So it's not just Iowa corn. You got some in Nebraska and some in Illinois also. And Illinois is a big agricultural state, south of Chicago, of course. When I say about predominantly urban and predominantly rural areas, maybe the predominantly urban areas separate, or if those states separate, maybe those counties will petition to stay in the union. Just like West Virginia did. So we might get Southern Illinois. Who knows? Let's hope it don't come to that. So the food situation is that we have a lot of risk. We just had a hurricane go up the East Coast. Who knows what else is coming at us through this year. We've had late season planting in the United States because we've had an early wet spring. That's not what we've had the last couple of years. We may have, once again, an early frost, freeze. Last year we had a lot of crops stuck in the field because of snow. They weren't supposedly harvested until this spring, but what kind of shape were they in? I imagine they were just plowed under. I can't imagine anything they would save it after sitting outside in the winter all year long in the weather. Right. Some of that was counted as inventory, but we know how that goes. So these are the things we're facing. Food supply is at risk, as I've been indicating in my videos on that. So let's talk about natural catastrophe. Hey, look, without food, we're in trouble. You know what? Let me tell you. I'm going to segue into something else here. Let me show you another video, another quick ad before we go into natural disasters and what that means. Oh yeah, here's a video I put about could China covertly invade the United States? People are asking me, Greg, how do I find your link to my tree leaf market? I've been asked it several times. It's funny, I've actually did a video showing people how to do this. You need seeds. You need to grow your own garden. You seriously do. So I'm going to show you this real fast. Just come in here to any of my videos that have, so some of my live sessions I don't post the stuff on, but most of these, the channel notes, come in here and you see this and it says show more. You can click show more and you're going to find links to my links and links to my other videos and many other things, not all my videos, but some of them that are usually pertain to the topic. But check out, Green Greg's has teamed up with True Leaf Market to bring you a great selection of seeds for your spring plant. All you got to do is just click it. Bam, just like that. And bada bing, bada bang, you're on your way to True Leaf Market. The internet electrons run fast enough, right? And here you can find all sorts of seeds and garden supplies, heirloom seeds. Heirloom seeds is the kind of seeds, non-GMO, the seeds that you can replant, that you can harvest from your plants and replant and get the same plant back next year. You can't get that with hybrid seeds. You know what you're getting. You need heirloom seeds, open pollinated seeds. So you got garden and supplies. Look at all the stuff you can get here in terms of seeds. Lots of stuff. You can grow food indoors, microgreens. You get microgreen seeds, microgreen supplies, sprouts, wheatgrass, all kind of supplies. Look at all these categories, info. The True Leaf Market actually even tells you how to grow everything that they sell. They tell you how to grow it. I mean, you can't beat that. And they're great prices, good products. They provide good service. They've got a good team with these guys here. Tree Leaf Market. I really highly recommend them. So let's go back over here, back to We're going to talk about natural catastrophes. And let's see it. Yeah, this kind of stuff. Problem is, with the bug going around, it's harder for us, for the emergency workers to respond to natural catastrophes. A lot of them are out. A lot of their equipment may be hard to find and replace. Supplies are hard to find right now. And it may get worse. If there's another shutdown due to the bug going around, you can expect, and that could be counted also as, phase 2, could be another, could be counted as another natural catastrophe, or it may be part of item number 1. Was it global war? Was that the first round? Some people think so. I'm just asking. Hey, this is a live action role play session, right? Seriously, that would greatly hamper how our emergency responders can respond to normal emergencies. So you're going to have to be more prepared than ever. And Lord knows we've had stuff coming at us this year. Why would we expect anything to change? We've had uptick in earthquakes, uptick in volcanoes. We could have fires. I mean, look what happened to Australia last year. Oh my God. Biggest fires ever known. And then floods, fires, floods, droughts, hurricanes, tornadoes. How are we going to respond to them? Can you be ready for them? Can you be ready when the emergency providers aren't there? When the cavalry isn't coming to save you? And even this drench coat, well, that's a natural disaster too that affects food. Like I said, these things are connected together like spaghetti. But, something a lot of us aren't aware of, you would be if you've listened to my channel and some other sister channels, is that Earth's magnetic field, our magnetic shield, is dropping in field strength very rapidly. This drop in field strength puts us all at risk to the sun. Solar coronal mass ejections. And guess what? We're just coming out of a solar minimum. See, we have, every 11 years, there's a solar cycle. You have peaks and minimums, 11 years apart. And we've just come out of the annual minimum, and the sun is getting active again. Now, the height of the peaks has been going down, so it may not be as active as the peak as last year. Some people, such as some channels, such as Ben Davison, actually, of Suspicious Observers, is predicting that we'll have one more, fairly active cycle, well, maybe a little bit less than the last one, but we're not, he says we're not quite yet to the van solar minimum. He's claiming that will be the next cycle. But we are definitely in record cosmic rays. So the fact that these cycles are diminishing has impacted how much cosmic rays we're getting in, which for the Hans-Fin's mark causes cloud nucleation, which increases the albedo of the Earth. Also gives you more rain, more mold, which affects your crops, which goes back to the food supply. Like I said, these things are intertwined. But what's happened this time that's unique is that our magnetosphere is weaker, which means smaller solar storms could take out our power grid. And indeed, we have a sunspot turning toward Earth right now, AR2770. I'm not saying it's going to take out our power grid, but we don't know that it won't. So there you go. There it is. My friends, this is what we've got to watch out for. And I'm just showing you some of these things. Another good source for this is spaceweather.com to watch out for these kind of things, or rocks that may come at us. Hey, yeah, we could get an asteroid come on. That's always a possibility. It's not as probable, but it would definitely be the worst sort of natural catastrophe, possibly. Could even be worse than item number 1 if a big enough one hit us. Let's go ask the dinosaurs. They're not fond of, they weren't fond of natural catastrophes in the final moment, I would take it. So we have a lot of things that can take us. A lot of things can hit us. This year could be a real roller coaster. The rest of 2020s could be a roller coaster. There's certain agendas out there that, would have us all, take us all off the land and put us in homes that are racked and stacked on the railroad track, just down from the smokestacks, if you know what I mean. So that's why we want to stay out of the hive. Again, my proposition, my channel is help you survive, thrive, and stay out of the hive. So hang in here. Let's stick together. Along those lines, I am starting 2 groups. One is my survival tribe group, and also I'm starting the Freedom Restoration Foundation. We've already had some couple meetings with that group, and we have actually elected our secretary and picked our name. We've got the website reserved for it, Freedom Restoration Foundation. If you're interested in either or both, here's what you do. Email me at how5space@aol.com. I'll put the links below. If you're interested in the Freedom Group, put Freedom in the subject line. If you're interested in joining my survival tribe movement based on propositions, a lone prepper, the lone survivor has very slim chances of making it. We're trying to form communities. And pardon me if I've been behind. I am a little bit behind on that. Recruited a couple of individuals to help me get our list going again. And so hopefully we'll start coordinating this. We may not have a lot of time. And my friends, we've got challenges in front of us. I'm not saying that any one of these 5 items is going to hit us. But look what's already hit us this year. Look what's already cooking. Fuses are burning. Our country's a powder keg. I mean, just go back and look at the tensions. Go back and look at all these peaceful protests we've been having. I am told that they're only peaceful protests. That's what I get told. Well, yeah. By that, I got something to say. I got some nice beachfront property on the North Shore of Alaska. So, my friends, we may be in for a very, very rough ride. I think right now we are in the eye of the storm. I did a video called The Eye of the Storm. I think the eye wall on the other side is coming at us. It may come fast. It may be furious. With all this pre-election consternation, it's hard to know what to expect. I hope good people with good hearts, will stop it from going crazy. Let's hope the silent majority damps down things. Everybody's got a right to protest peacefully. Everyone has a right to assemble. They have a right to redress. They have a right to petition. Freedom of speech. It's interesting how so many people that are availing themselves of these rights right now want to take those same rights away from us. Highly suspicious, right? I say we need to maintain those rights and get them back to the levels that they were at previously. That is the purpose of the Freedom Restoration Foundation. I'll be talking about that more in the future. I'm not coming out with an official announcement of the group yet, but it's in process. And I'm hoping that we can merge that with our tribal group so we can work in concert. If there's something you don't like, let me know. But anyway, so that I know you watched this video then. Just tell me, glasses or no glasses? How do I look best? And then I'll know that you watched the rest. All right. So to recapitulate real quick, we have at least 5 big risk areas. Many channels are talking about these. They cut them different ways. They combine them different ways. They take, one of my categories and break it into 3, and, we combine them differently. We see the world a little different. But you're getting this from my perception. And I would consider that bug going around to be either number 1 or number 5. One of the other, number 1 or number 5. But, and I'm not saying which. I'm just saying we may see more of that. How much so? Or maybe a different one. Or whether or not you believe in it, you may see the reactions of those that govern to it. Okay? So, and we've already seen that, and it shut our economy down. How much more are we going to see? Hey, gosh, maybe our biggest catastrophe, at least in my region, is this might be a better thing to say at the end of the video. We've shut down college football. Holy smoke. So, there you go. How much more, I don't want to ask the question and beg fate, right? That's pretty bad. Maybe that's the top catastrophe. No college football. Well, I'm not a ginormous sports fan, but I will say Roll Tide. Melbourne after all, right? So anyway, everyone, we'll stick together. The most important thing is that you stay centered spiritually, physically. Get your preps. Prepare your mind, your spirit, your body, your soul. Understand what can come at you. That way you're not hit with cognitive dissonance, that you're not shocked and stunned. Go through the mental exercise in your mind of everything can hit us, but be right with your maker. Be right with your maker. Be at one in peace with the universe, with the creator, the greater creator. I'm trying not to be specific here, but that may be the most important thing. And, take care of your family. So that's why I did this video. It's just to give you a perspective of the kind of things to prepare for, what may hit us, and so that you can think through them and be ready. My friends, hang in there. Peace. Let's all pray that we get through this, that we avert the most of it. But whatever the case is, our objective, especially when we go through these tribes, is to be able to stand up on the other side, shake it off, and start anew. Whatever it is, however bad or not bad it is, let's hope that on the other side of whatever it is, that we build a better world. Anyway, thank you for watching.